Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday stream, July 26th. Rahul is here. Oh shoot, I don't have chat ready to go. One moment. Knew I was forgetting something. It's always something. And there we go. Rahul is here. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you for joining us today. I love having you, and thank you for your thoughtful comments on this week's videos. I obviously really appreciate that. And yes, welcome. If you're new here, my name is Angela. I'm a front-end developer in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'm a software engineer. And on this channel, we practice the basics: HTML, vanilla JavaScript, and vanilla CSS. Not in that order. I would say my strength is CSS. I would say that I'm a fair to midland JavaScript user, but we're working on it, right? I'm definitely UI focused. Today we are, oh boy, I don't have anything pulled up. How am I not prepared? Why do I feel prepared and then find out I'm not prepared? Story of my life. Here we go. We are working on a project called Hilltop. It is a HTML, CSS, vanilla, JavaScript landing page, and it's going swimmingly. Let's get us over to another screen. It's going great. I'm so excited about how this is turning out. I think it exceeded my expectations. So let me see here. I feel like I'm questioning my life choices right now. No, we're good. Okay. Just I've learned the hard way to double check some of the settings, so to speak. So if you're new here, welcome. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We would love to be able to push out more. I would like to be able to push more content like this out to front-end developers who are looking for somebody that likes to practice and likes to get back to basics. Not in any way, shape, or form in denial about frameworks or libraries. Of course, we can use those things when we need to. This is just about practicing. I have the philosophy that if you are solid in your core foundational concepts especially around CSS and vanilla JavaScript, you could use any framework or any library. I think new developers especially don't realize that when they get that first job, or even if you just start at a new organization, you're going to be given a lot of legacy code to work on, a lot of what I like to call spaghetti CSS files. And it really helps if you understand basic things like display inline, display block, position, relative, position absolute, stuff like that. So that's what we work on here, the basics. Go Elmo, Go is here. Hello. So happy to have you. Welcome. I also, before we get started on Hilltop, I want to let people know what we're going to start working on next weekend, because I do have something picked out for next weekend that I want to work on. Hopefully you can see this here. Let's open this up. And it's only going to take one weekend, so it's going to be pretty quick. But I kind of noticed this about a month or so ago, and I was like, I think that would be really fun to build. And so this is a mock-up for a resume, a web page resume, and I think this would be really fun. I don't think it's complex at all. We could do it in a weekend. And what I really want to do is do a print media query, because anytime you print from the browser, you trigger a print dialog where you can either print or save as a PDF. You can also trigger the print dialog with JavaScript. I think it's just window.print. So let's build a web page resume, and then down at the bottom here where we have social media icons, let's include a print button where we could trigger the print dialog and then specifically write print styles, which I have not done very often in my career. And that's something I would like to get a little bit better at. So let's definitely do this. And I think this would be a great open source project for a lot of new developers, especially. And me personally, I wanted to do this for my own website because I just thought it looked fun. So this would be super cool. And of course, I'll make sure that there's a Git repository for this. So if people want to follow along, or if you want to oops, I said a bad word, fork the repository, you could do so. I say bad words a lot, but I try not to say them while I'm live streaming or in videos. So yeah, so I think we can get this done next weekend. And then August is a long month. There are 5 full weekends in August. So we could do this the first weekend in August, and then I think in those remaining 4 weekends, we can do another landing page. And I have it narrowed down to a couple of things, but I haven't decided yet. So I'll decide before next weekend what I want to do for the rest of August. So we can bang out 2 projects for August, which I think will be really fun. So this is what we're going to do next weekend. So yay. And then let's see here. Let me open up our mockup for today's project. I don't know if we're going to need it, but it's a good idea to have it open. So here's basically what we're finishing this weekend. And this project, so these live streams, I have edited into one big project video where I edited out all of the beginning and the end where I'm just chatting anytime I went off topic, conversations with the chat. I took all of that out unless the conversation with the chat was directly related to what was happening with the build. And it's going to end up being around 10 or 11 hours. So a real-time build, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And that will be out on, it'll be Monday or Tuesday this week. So I've been really good at like editing those streams every single day as the streams wrapped up. So that should be out this week. So I'm pretty excited about, the being able to repurpose the streams as project compilations. That's kind of exciting. That was always like my original vision for live streaming. So I'm glad that a year into live streaming, I'm finally doing it. So yes, Freudian slip, it happens. Rita Kwan is here. Thank you, Rita. Happy to have you. Happy to have you. So, okay. Oh, okay. And now I have one other thing that I also want to talk about before we dig into this. And it's something that came up last weekend, but of course, hang on here. Okay. So last weekend, I sort of detoured us on this question of how to style links with, let's get over here. Because we had a question, I think Rob was here on Saturday, and he had been asking about pseudo-classes and pseudo-elements, and I'm working on a video that will be out this week discussing pseudo-classes and pseudo-elements. But last weekend, I had done like a little sort of mini deep dive into pseudo classes for anchor elements and really buttons, but for our purposes, anchor elements. And I had talked about LVHA, or the weird mnemonic love-hate. And then, of course, with focus in the middle. And in the beginning of my career, well, really, when I started learning web development, I was taught link, visited, hover, active specifically. And then I stopped using the pseudo classes link and visited, and I couldn't remember why I stopped using those. And then as soon as I implemented them, I remembered why I stopped using them. They're not really necessary. So I did a little bit of a deep dive this week on is it a best practice to use the pseudo classes link and visited? And it's really not. There's a reason why you use these things. You use link if you specifically want a style for an unvisited, unclicked link. You use visited if you specifically want a style for a visited link. And a good example of why you might do this is if you have, let's say you have a really, really long blog post with lots of links, you may want a visited pseudo class to signify to the user, oh, you've already clicked on that link, that you've already been there, you can click on a different link. So it's meant to be good UX for the user on a page with lots and lots of links. It's not a best practice or a requirement to style link or visited. It's just not a requirement. So last weekend I was kind of feeling like it was, but then as soon as I implemented it, I was like, wow, this is a huge pain in the ass. This is like sort of making things really overly specific for me. And I wanted to just look a little bit further into this. So I am not going to style pseudo classes for link or visited. I'm going to take these out. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. And if that had been on your mind, like it was on my mind, now you know. So I don't know. Am I the only one who lays in bed at night thinking about pseudo classes? Gagan Deep Singh is here. Hello. I hope that I'm saying your name correctly. Please tell me if I'm not. But hello, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let's take these out. We don't need them. So it's okay when you're styling your links and your buttons to just style the anchor element. And then when you're styling your pseudo classes for the anchor elements, or buttons, the order is focus, hover, active. Now, I, for years, have been doing hover, active, focus. Hover does need to come before active because you take it in the order that the user does it, right? Focus should come before hover though. So I've been putting it last, it should come first. So from now on, I'm just going to style the anchor element and I'm just going to style focus, hover, active, unless we find ourselves in a situation where we have a really, really long blog post. Maybe there's lots of links, there's lots of citations or references. I don't know. That's just an example that I could think of where you would want to give the user the experience of letting them know what links they've already clicked on. So I think that that's actually a pretty good example. So let's see if we have any other ones here. I think we do. Yeah, we do. Yeah, I've done kind of a deep dive on, pseudo classes and pseudo elements. And, you know, I knew what those things were, but what I'm learning about creating content to explain it to other people is that I clearly don't know, I don't have a lot of context on why things work the way they do. I know how to implement them. I understand what the behavior is once I do implement them most of the time. But to sit and really explain it to another person, that's what I'm learning how to do through being a content creator, which is really cool. I'm really enjoying it. I'm coming away from making some of these videos going, wow, like how did I not fully understand that? Like I just think it's so cool. Now I kind of get that and I can explain it to another person. So I'm just enjoying the process. So Monique is here. Greetings to all. Where are we at now? Well, we just had a lovely conversation about pseudo elements for links and buttons. And I'll let you go back and review that, but the Reader's Digest version is that we do not need a link or a visited pseudo class. That's not a best practice. You don't need to do that. It is meant to be a part of the user experience if you have a page with a lot of links and you specifically want to style the visited pseudo class, but it's not a requirement. It is overly specific, so I have removed it from our anchor elements and our social media icons. So let's actually check and make sure that we haven't ruined anything. And we have not. And we do need to also, let's put this on our QA list, that we need to make sure that we have a hover state for our social media icons. Oh yeah, and I did put it here. Good. So what I want to do today is I really want to, we're going to dig into our responsive styles. And I really want to get the responsive styles done today. And then tomorrow, well, responsive styles, and then also let's like check other browsers. And obviously we'll check, I have an iPhone, so we'll check iPhone today for responsive styles. And then tomorrow we're going to implement the JavaScript for our click events, the styles, and we'll do accessibility testing with keyboard navigation. So come hell or high water, this all gets done this weekend, and it takes as long as it takes. I don't care if it exceeds 2 hours. So buckle up. We're doing this together, but I don't think it's going to be that tough because our header and our slider are pretty much done. I mean, I have some button issues that we need to deal with, but I'm not going to worry about these buttons on mobile until we actually do the slider, because I'm more focused right now on let's just get this layout looking the way it should. So let's go ahead and start with this 3-card section, which is going to pretty much immediately make like all the other sections also responsive. Slider. So header, social, search, slider. Okay, here's our 3-card section. So our cards, we're just going to drop this down. So our navigation goes into mobile at 1024 pixels, but I think our cards hold up a little bit longer. So I'm actually going to do okay, let's get this footer. Let's do the footer first, because this is in my way. And it's because of the, yeah. So I think actually if we just put position relative on this footer, that'll take care of that. There we go. So this holds up pretty well to 768. How fancy do we want to get here? Let's get a little fancy. Here's what I don't want to do. Well, here, I think, okay, Angela, center, gather yourself, gather your thoughts. So there's our header, there's our wrap. So we have our figure, and then we have our content. So first, let's do a media query and just make this 100%. And then I have an idea. So we'll do, whoops, I did it again. And we'll just say width 100%. What's happening? Well, why are you still, oh, probably because, well, why would that matter? With 100%, so why are you not 100%? Yeah, we're live. Hang on. Well, wrap or no wrap shouldn't matter if it's with 100%. Am I wrong about that? I don't think so. Why does that matter? And let's take the gap off. So this is pretty big. This is pretty big. So let's do something a little bit different. So now for the content item, let's do display flex, flex flow, row, no wrap, justify content, space between, align items, flex start is fine, and we'll do a gap of 2 rems. And then let's also do some margin on the bottom. So now at 960, we have these more vertical rows, but eventually we are going to need to and let's also change, we can change the aspect ratio. So instead of these being like fairly square, let's make them more portrait. Let's make them more portrait. So right now the aspect ratio is 17:1. If we change the aspect ratio to be more like, I don't know, like 5:7, or we could do 3:4. 3:4, 5:7. I kind of like 5:7. Make hard section image. Do 5:7. Oh. How is that more specific than this? Am I losing my mind today? Oh, is it, hang on, it's because we are not in the right. Let's just move this down to the bottom. Right here. There we go. We'll tighten this up a little bit. So that's, so maybe instead of a gap of 2, we'll do 1. And then we have a lot of margin around. We don't, oh yeah, I think I just want margin on the bottom, not all the way around. There we go. Now we have a lot more room for that text to wrap. And let's tighten up this title. We put a lot in for that title. Yeah, now we hold up a lot better. We hold up a lot better. So maybe once we get down to like 550, now we can drop this into a more traditional mobile. Just makes it a little more interesting and not so incredibly boring. So now we're gonna definitely reverse engineer a couple of things. At media, max width, 500, 550. So I don't know, content creators might not like that because I'm changing the aspect ratio of their images based on whether they're on mobile or desktop. But the whole point of this is to show developers that it doesn't matter what the aspect ratio of an image is. You can make any image, any aspect ratio, and it will always be responsive and it will always have the focal point that you want it to be, because you can control that really easily with CSS. And that is the whole point of this exercise, in my opinion. So, okay, so at 500, I'm going to change this to, I think I'm just going to change the flex direction. I don't even think I need this. I think we can just do flex direction column. And then I'll take out the gap, and then we'll reduce the margin on the bottom. And then I'm going to change this to 3 to 4. Where's my aspect? Why isn't my aspect ratio kicking in? Oh, it is. That's 3 to 4. I think I like that better. Maybe we can tighten this up to 3.5. I do like that better. What was it originally? 1.7 to 1. Should we just go back to the original? 1.7 to 1. Yeah, we'll go back to the original. I like it. I like it. This is slightly more visually interesting than just going from 3 across to stacked. This might be a little aggressive though. I mean, it holds up pretty well to about, maybe I'll change it to 600. I think I'll change it to 600. And hey, guess what? It's an open source project. So if anybody wants to use this, they can modify it as they see fit. But I want to do something that is slightly more interesting. Yeah. So now all of these should be responsive now, like that. Oh, yeah. These, hang on. Just need to make sure. Oh, these have different classes. That's a content description. That's also a content description. Content item. Content item. Content figure image. Content description. Somebody is asking my opinion on Java full stack versus MERN. I have no opinion on that. Yeah, I think you should do whatever sounds good to you, whatever works for you, right? That is my best advice. Did I spell something wrong here? Content description. content description. Oh, I think it's because how much you want to bet this image is the actual, no, rendered size. I think I actually need to define these widths. That's what I didn't do. So here's the content item. We also want to make sure that we define so with the 100%, yeah, we just need to define our width. So we'll just say width 50. Oh, let me think about this. Content image, content item. We don't really have classes for content description. 3-card section, image, 3-card section, content. Three-card section, content, description. If the gap is 1, I'm going to say width calc 100% minus 1 rem. No, yeah. Oh no, divided by 2. There we go. There we go. And then instead of flex start, so instead of flex start, we probably just want to do center. Yeah, we'll just do center. Whoop, that's not what I wanted. There we go. I love it. I love it. Something just slightly more interesting. And then we have to change our width again at 500. So we'll basically do this. And we'll just say width 100%. There we go. And then let's add a little more margin to the bottom. I guess we do need a little bit more there, don't we? Yeah. Oh, what's that? Oh, probably we just have some other styles that we need to do. See, our container is a little wiggly here. So once we finish our other styles, but look at, now we have, oh, our aspect ratio isn't quite right here. But now we have styles for all 3 of these sections. And 701. Yeah, what's going on here? This is not the correct aspect ratio. $528. Am I losing my mind? 528 divided by 396. 1.3. So I think that's right. Is it because okay, it's correct there. With the 100% height, is it because I'm defining, but I'm defining a width here. So if we changed it here, let's do a little debugging. So our aspect ratio is working here. It's working here. So again, let's do a little debugging here. So it's working there. But when we go here, it is not working. Oh, is it because, do I have these in the wrong order again? Do I need to put this last? Yes, Monique is letting people know that we pretty much just focused on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript here. So just getting back to the basics. Please teach React. So the problem with that, other than I don't really do frameworks or libraries on this channel, is I don't actually know React. So I couldn't teach React even if I wanted to, because I've never used React. I've used Vue and Angular. I don't even feel comfortable teaching Vue and Angular, even though I've built many Vue apps and I've built like a handful of Angular apps. I still wouldn't teach either of those things because JavaScript is not my strength. So maybe does this need to be with auto? Did I spell this wrong? I'm just like, what is happening here? Why isn't my aspect ratio? Is it because this is a column? Is that it? It was because it was a column. Because now this is the correct aspect ratio, but it's not the correct width. Okay. Do you see these messes that I get myself into? All I had to do was stack these cards up for mobile. That's all I had to do. I had one job. Okay. So row, no wrap. Flex flow. So let's just change this to flex flow wrap. Hallelujah. Now we have the correct aspect ratio. That's interesting. I guess I didn't. So changing to column instead of row negated the aspect ratio. I don't get that at all. I don't know why that happened, but hey, we're learning something new here, right? Welcome to the life of a front-end developer. But now my aspect ratios are all working the way I want them to. I guess. So here's 1.7 to 1. I don't know, I'm still questioning. So we know that this is 1.17 is not the same as 1.7. Got it. There we go. That's the other problem. Now we're 3 to 4. Maybe we do just want to stick with 1.17 to 1. Yeah, actually, I am going to stick with the same aspect ratio here. And then the content creators won't get mad after all of their hard work of picking out and doing image sourcing. And then we're not changing the flex direction. We're just changing, I think we could just do flex flow, flex, what is this? The flex flow, flex direction, flex wrap. Isn't that what it is? Flex wrap? Flex wrap, wrap. Flex flow, no wrap. Flex wrap, wrap. And And then the same thing here, flex wrap. Is that right? I think that's right. MDN flex wrap. Yeah, that's right. Flex wrap wrap. So we're changing it from no wrap to wrap. And then we're doing flexbox on the article. And then we're changing no wrap to wrap. And we have the correct aspect ratio for everything. All right, now what do we think? Now that we have the correct aspect ratio, I like it. I like it. And then let's make sure, you know what else I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this word more. I was thinking about that too. So let's just have the title be the link. And then let's also see how that holds up. That holds up really well. But we can also make sure our content links don't wrap. Right here. So let's just do white space, no wrap. Whoops, no wrap. And I think that that's fine because it's about to pop into mobile anyways. And then this just makes sure that it doesn't wrap right before it pops in. And it still holds up really well. Oh, that SVG is wrapping though, isn't it? So it's just the text that isn't wrapping, but the SVG is wrapping. Gosh darn it. Oh, it's because the SVG is display block. What if I change it to inline block? No, it still wraps. Okay, you know what? I'm going to pick my battles. I'm going to pick my battles and say that I don't care about that. It's the least of my issues. Because this still holds up really well. We're down to like less than 300 pixels, and this holds up really well on mobile. And we even sort of have like this medium size. We even have like this medium size that is slightly less boring. So I'm good with this. And we have, what, 3 sections now that are styled. So we have this section, we have this section, and we have this section. Yeah, good, good, good. Okay, now let's make sure that this is styled. And one moment. So I think on desktop, this is our dark section. I think that we don't need all of this padding. So on the image wrap, I'm going to take off the padding, but I'm going to keep the padding on the content description. And I think that holds up a lot better. And I think also I'm going to take off, maybe take off the padding on the description on the right. So here's desktop. No, I'm going to keep it on. I'm going to keep it on. So this holds up pretty well. We've surpassed 1024. We've surpassed 960. And I think at 960 is when I'm going to drop this below the image. So let's find our dark section. And here's the thing, if you're in an agency or an organization and your designer specifically gives you mockups for mobile, obviously follow the mockups. In the 12 years that I've been doing this, it's pretty rare that I get mockups specifically for mobile styles, unless there's something very specific that that designer has in mind. They need to obviously communicate that to the developers. Most of the time, I get either all mobile styles if it's like meant to be a mobile app, or I get all desktop styles if it's more traditional website. That is my experience. So unless they're communicating to you that they want you to do something very specific, this has almost always been up to me as the developer to map out. So, okay. So I'm going to change this to, I mean, I don't know why we have to have padding here at all, because padding is not part of the CSS inheritance, so you don't have to specifically declare it. There is no browser default for it. So let's just come down here to media. We'll say max width 960 pixels. So here's the image wrap, and then here's the content description. So we'll grab this, and then I'm going to grab this. I actually think we can just do this. I'm just going to change this to 100%, and let's say padding 0, because I think we already have padding on the container. And on dark section, we have to change the flex wrap. Am I losing my mind? Why do you need to change it to wrap if it's 100%? I don't, am I not remembering something? I just must not be remembering that you have to do that. So flex wrap, wrap. There we go. And then let's give our image wrap a little bit of margin. on the bottom. So we'll just say margin 0, 0, 1 rem. There we go. And then I think we could even change the padding for this entire section just to 1 rem. Let's do 2 rems on the top and bottom. There we go. It needed something. There we go. And then let's, we increased our content description. So let's, we did 1.1 rem for desktop. I'm not gonna, I mean, I guess I could just clamp this, but we have a media query here. So I'm just going to put in a media query and we'll get this down to just 1 rem for mobile. There we go. This has a lot of line height. This has a lot of line height. So the default line height, it's probably getting the default line height of 1.65 from the body, because line height is part of the cascading inheritance of CSS. So we could do line height 1.25. We could tighten that up a little bit. It's also got some margin, which I think is okay. I mean, maybe we could tighten that up a little bit too. Real estate, right? Yeah, let's do that. So the dark section, secondary heading. This is your chance to be fussy. It's totally fine to be a little bit fussy and specific with your styles. There is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. It's called attention to detail. It's called attention to detail. Let's see how this looks on desktop. I mean, this is a pretty big monitor. Let's get up to. So I think this would mimic a kind of a normal laptop experience. Yeah, I think this looks great. So Elmo Go says, when it comes to how you overall structure your site, I know it depends on the purpose of the site, but which do you prefer, grid style or main container with an aside? I tend to prefer main container with an aside, because, and I think you actually kind of make my point in your question. When I think of main container with an aside, I'm immediately thinking of semantic HTML elements. So I have a main container, and then in my main container, I have a section. Well, let me think about this. I have a series of sections. Let's think about this, because I would want everything inside the main. Here's our blog website. So here's the last project we did. So here's the main container. Here's the main container. Hopefully you can see this. And then the hero is this section, and then I have a div called main wrap. And then within that, I have a section for the blog layout, and then I have an aside. So I do it this way because I'm thinking structurally about HTML5 elements. I'm thinking about hierarchy. I'm thinking about what an aside actually is. And like the documentation defines aside as being like sort of ancillary related. So it's like not directly related, but it's indirectly related. And that's how I think of a sidebar. So I'm thinking more in terms of using HTML for semantic hierarchy, using HTML5 elements like section, article, aside, main, as letting their semantic value do the heavy lifting for search engine optimization and screen readers. That's how I'm approaching it. So I hope that answers your question. Also, I've never used Grid, and I said I would use Grid on the next project, so I have to follow through on that. So we'll use Grid next weekend when we build the resume page, and it'll be my first time using Grid. Because once I learned Flexbox, I just loved it. And prior to Flexbox, I spent years doing the old-fashioned float and clearing your floats. And for a long time, I resisted using Flexbox because I was so good at floating my elements and clearing the floats and doing layouts using float. I was like, I don't need Flexbox because I know how to do it with float. And then eventually, like once I really started working as a developer, I was like, oh, actually, there are much better ways to do this. And Flexbox met all of my needs. So, but I will use Grid. So I hope this answers your question. Let me know if you were looking for something different. Oh, good. Yeah, made a lot of sense. Thank you. I want to use Grid for a Pinterest style website. Well, good luck, because I was obsessed with masonry layouts for a really long time. I tried Flexbox, and that is the one case where I tried Grid, although I needed help from ChatGPT to do it. I still don't actually know Grid. I could not get Flexbox or Grid to work for a masonry style layout. What I got to work was just using CSS columns. That is what worked for me. But if you can get it to work with Grid, more power to you. I would love to see that repository if you do, because I couldn't get it to work. I had a tough time with it. So, okay. I'm happy with this. I like that, not everything is just stacking on mobile. Not everything is just stacking. Some things are side by side. There's like an in-between state. Some things do stack. I like it. Let's see here. Oh, I have more than one of these open. Okay. Let's zoom back out. So now we need to deal with this. And I can tell you that I don't think that these little boxes are going to support a lot of text. So here's 100%. Here's 100%. So we're at 1200, 1150, and things are getting pretty squishy. So I think we need to give ourselves permission to change this from 4 across to a 2x2. So let's change this at 1200. Let's change this to a 2x2. So here's our overlay container. And we have been rudely reminded that we have to change our flex wrap in order to get things to wrap, I guess. Now that I'm saying out loud, that makes sense. So I'm going to do max width 1200 pixels. And it's the overlay container. So we'll change the flex wrap to wrap. And then we're going to change the overlay item. I think all we have to do is change it to with 50%. There we go. So now at 1200 and kind of this in-between state, now we've got this nice little grid. So if there's extra content in here, it holds up a little better. And then I think let's at 600%. At 600, let's just change it so they're all stacked. So I hope that what people are seeing here is that there's no prescriptive set of media queries. There isn't. I tend to use things like 1024, 960, 600, things like that. But I'm also, I'm letting the content tell me what it needs, right? I'm letting the content sort of tell us what it needs. That's okay too. There we go. I think that works really well. And this holds up pretty well. Even these boxes that have a little extra content, and you know what we could do? Once we get to this state, I was thinking that the square doesn't need to be an aspect ratio of square. We could just make the image be whatever. No, we're not going to change that because this is absolutely positioned. So I'm not going to mess with that. But this holds up pretty well. We are well, you know what we could do though? Let's make it a little wider. Let's make it a little wider because right now the width is 70%. So yeah, let's just make it a little wider. Maybe once we get down to about 400, let's make it maybe 90. And just give it a little more room there. Yeah, there. That gives it a lot more room for mobile if there's more content in there. So this is the overlay hover section item content. And we'll just change this to width 90%. There we go. See that nice little boop boop? Oop. Then we have our testimonial slider. And I think for the testimonial slider, I'm just going to change where these arrows go. I'm just going to move them down into the corner here. And I think I will also just tighten up some of the padding. So let's do that. I'll start with that. When do we want to do that? Let's just do 960. Yeah, we'll do 960. We'll drop down the padding and we'll drop the arrows. So it'll be 2 rems on the top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right. There we go. And then our slider controls. I think we could do align items flex end instead. We may want to put more padding on the bottom just to give those arrows a little more room. Yeah, that works for me. And then what is the thing? So it's the testimonial slider section, slider controls, align items. Look at that. All right, I think the last thing we need to do is our form and our map, and then we're going to check this on mobile. Let me see here. I did not. Let me get my phone out. All right. Our footer is, I don't think our footer needs really anything. Let's see here. Yeah, our footer is really fine. That copyright can wrap, that's fine. We'll see how it actually looks on my phone. So I think the final thing here is this. And I think this actually holds up pretty well. So we're at 1100. I think at 1024 we should drop this form below the map and adjust. Well, maybe we could just adjust the padding, because we have a lot of padding here. So maybe at 1024 we just adjust this padding to continue to be 4 rems on the top and bottom and 1 rem on the left and right, just to give it a little more room. Maybe we want to do this at like 1200 and then at 960 drop it down. Yeah, that makes more sense. So contact section. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay, contact section. Hmm. Oh, I did this bad. I guess that's okay. And then at 960, we'll drop it down. So we need to change the contact section. Flex wrap to wrap. And we need to change the Google map and the form. So the Google map and the content section form. With 100%, but we also want to change the aspect ratio. Of the Google map. this. And I'm going to change the aspect ratio to 16 to 9, and we'll just see how it looks. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And then the form is just kind of, well, let's tighten up this padding for sure. There's a gap. Is that because, what's the display? Is that because it's display? What's the default display of an iframe? Display block. Yeah, it must be MDN iframe. Okay, is it, what is the display property? It's a little bigger. Well, it must be display inline because I changed it to display block and it removed the space. So that must be that's my answer. So if you couldn't see, let's see here. Oh, I did it on the wrong thing anyways. It's hard to see, but there's a little bit of space here underneath. Not the figure, because the figure is display block, but there's a little bit of space underneath the iframe. And that's generally because it's an inline element. But if we change the iframe to display block, that removes that space. So the MDN documentation isn't specifically saying that it's an inline element, but it must be, because that's the behavior that I'm observing in the browser. So this is just, I don't know, to me, this is just like another example of why it's a good idea to kind of go back to basics. Because sometimes when you understand some of these little like quirky things that are happening, you're like, well, why is that space there and why can't I get rid of it? And you try all these things. But when you understand that display inline does stuff like that, when you understand that changing the display property can get rid of a space and you don't have to wrestle with it, that just makes all the difference. It just makes all the difference. Oh, and we have a Sonam Sherpa waited 20 minutes to appreciate your grind. Thank you. Yes, we do a lot of grinding here, right? Lots of grind. Okay, let's tighten up the padding in this form. So we have a lot of padding right now, 4 rems. Let's just cut it down to about 2, and I think that will be fine. And hey, do me a favor. If this is your, oh, I don't like that. We need more padding on the left and right, but I'm good with the padding on the, we need more padding on the left and right, but I'm good with the padding on the top and bottom. If this is your first time here, first of all, welcome. We're happy to have you. Do me a favor, like the video and subscribe to the channel and help us get more content like this pushed out to other people who enjoy front-end development or want to learn front-end development, because that's what we do here. We practice the basics. Vanilla CSS, vanilla JavaScript. We don't have anything against a good framework or a good library. I recognize that the world probably at this point runs on React. I totally get it. But I just think that your life is going to be a lot easier if you still understand core foundational concepts like especially vanilla CSS. I had somebody in the chat last weekend, and I am not criticizing this person at all. It's just an example of the questions that I get, which is I think he just said like Tailwind, this would be so much easier if you were using Tailwind. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's not the point. It's not about making it easier. It's about understanding how everything works. And I've been in a lot of situations where I've worked on legacy code bases, spaghetti CSS files, and yeah, this just makes it a lot easier. And I don't think there's really anything here that we need to do to the footer. But let's go ahead and get, oh, and I think once we do get down to, about 500 pixels, now we need to tighten up that padding. So what if we just did one rem all the way around? Well, I think we could do one on the top and bottom. I think we still need two on the left and right. Yeah, so we're just basically cutting it in half. Oh, maybe we need two all the way around. Yeah, I think we need two. Do we? Yeah. I think we could go 0 on the top, 2 on the left and right, 2 on the bottom, and this looks even to me. So let's change the padding at max width of 500. Max width of 500 pixels. This is the form. There we go. And I think our footer, let's check and see how things look on mobile. I think the footer is fine. I don't think we need to do anything to that footer. There we go. Oh yeah, let's change the, look at here. Can you see here what's happening at the bottom of that iframe? I didn't even really notice this last week, but you can see there is a tiny little gap here beneath the iframe, and we don't see it on the figure because the figure is display block. The iframe is display inline, so it doesn't quite line up with the form. So let's actually just change the iframe to display block on desktop, and then we don't need a separate style for that on mobile. Right here. And I think we can take this out. There we go. Look at that. I don't remember even noticing that last week. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so let's get this deployed and see how things look on mobile. Let's see. And it will take a moment on GitHub pages, but not long, just like a couple of minutes. Responsive styles for mobile. right, and then while that is deploying, here's our repository. And let me make sure. We'll check Chrome and we'll check Safari. There we go. And let's see if we can get this to work. Voila. Okay, so this is Safari. We'll refresh. Yeah. Look at that. What do we think? I love it. Oh, that's a little... Okay. So I think we have... it's not coming through very well, at least not on my end. I don't know if you can... There is... The featured works section has a like an off-white light gray background. I do see it on my mobile device, but I don't see it on the screen, which is totally fine. But I think we can tighten up the padding. We have 4 rems of padding on the top and bottom, so we can tighten that up. We obviously need some... It's okay here, but our content header here needs padding on the left and right. So we'll fix that. This is looking good. You can see that we have that extra width, but we still have that square aspect ratio for the images themselves. So that's perfect. Here's our slider. Yeah, the slider looks weird, doesn't it? I think probably, I don't know, that text should be center aligned. Ugh, I don't like center aligning text. But I think that would probably be appropriate in this situation. And I think those arrows, I think we need to do a better job with those arrows. I think they're too far down. They could be up a little bit more. Okay, so these containers are not wide enough. They should be stretching all the way to the right, and they're not. Okay, so we'll take a look at that. Our map looks fine. Our form also looks fine. And our footer looks fine. You're not really the background, the very subtle gray background that I have on some of these things, I don't think is coming through, but I can see it on my phone. Yeah, this is an interesting comment. Go Elmo Go, thank you. You can barely notice the color. I can see it on my device, but I don't think it comes through very well on the streaming software. So instead of that arrow, we can use dots and put that author also on the left side. Yes, I thought about that. I thought about that. So here's the, let me get back down to the slider. That's a good point, actually. Let's just left justify the author. The only reason I'm not going to use dots is, let me get back to the screen. The only reason I'm not going to use dots is because it's not in the mockup. The mockup has arrows, but I was thinking about that this week, that I would like to do a slider with dots. So I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to do dots this time. I'm going to stick with the arrows. But I think that you're right, that we should justify the name to the left. And I think tweaking the positioning of the arrows is going to help. So let's go back here. So, okay, top to bottom, what's the first thing we want to work on here? So we know our arrows aren't right here, and that's fine. We're going to deal with that tomorrow when we actually write the JavaScript for the slider, so I don't care about that now. Let's tighten up the padding, because we have 4 rems of padding on the top and bottom for pretty much all of our sections. Let's change that to 2 and tighten that up. And then let's work on featured works. So let's start with that. Wrong screen. Okay. Okay, well, let's deal with, start at the top and let's search for padding. Okay, this is ineffective. There's the search. There's the slider. Right here. I think that's going to help. Here's our dark section. We'll make sure. Oh, we did change it to, okay, that's the dark section. All right. Here's the overlay hover. Wait a second. This is why. I put 0 padding on the left and right, so it didn't pull in the content header. So the content header specifically will need padding to account for that. Yeah, that's fine. So let's just do that here. Overlay section, hang on, overlay hover section, content header. So in this spot, we just need a little more specificity. So I'm going to do 0 on the top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right. That will take care of that. But we also need to adjust this padding in our media query. And I think we can Well, I don't have a 960 or a 1024. So we'll do it here and we'll see how it looks. We'll see if we need an extra one. We can do an extra media query if we need to. That is no problem. So this would be 2 rems on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. And then what is happening with our content here on mobile? Okay, this already looks better. This already looks better. Maybe it's just this lorem ipsum, but it really looked pulled in, didn't it? It really looked pulled in. So there isn't anything specifically. There isn't anything specifically here pulling that in or making it more narrow. So maybe it's just this lorem ipsum, and these words are kind of long. So, I'm not going to do anything because there's no point in styling this for lorem ipsum. If the content creator came back to me and said, hey, I put in my content and this is how this layout's looking, then I make adjustments, but not until we get to that point. So I'm not going to worry about that. So even if it looks weird, until I see real content in there, it's a non-issue. Okay, so let's tighten up this testimonial slider. And let's see, where's the... So for the testimonial center on mobile, no, that's not what I want. Text align. Yeah, I think that is going to make a big difference. And then our slider controls. So if we take off what's holding this open because it's position absolute is inset 0, which works beautifully on desktop. So if we take off inset 0 for mobile and we just position it down at the bottom instead, we're going to have a lot more control over the position of those arrows. So let's do that. So we're just going to do this for the slider controls for the testimonials. Right here. So I'm not going to do this. Inset, can I unset the inset? Does that work? And then we'll take off the padding. And then I'm just going to do left 0, bottom 0, do I need to... We've already got width 100%. So I could do So if we add more padding to the bottom, then I can do bottom like 0.5 rems. Yeah, perfect. That just pushes it up a little bit. We could even give this a teensy bit more padding. I love it. I love it. Perfect. Excellent suggestion on moving that to the left. That's exactly what we needed. Okay. Let's remember this. Oh, whoops. And then bottom could be 0.5 rems. And then I was going to do testimonial, center, text align, left. Look at that. I love it. I love it. This looks so much more balanced. And we still have our nice big tap targets, so we're accessible with these arrows. And now this is pulled in. What's going on here? And I think let's make sure that for the last content item, so the content item last of type, we don't have any margin on the bottom. Yeah. So we'll just do this. So this would be last of type. Oops. And last of type is a pseudo class because the last of type is the state of the element in the DOM. It is the state location, which makes it a pseudo class. Oh, and 1 second here. Okay. So we're just going to say margin 0. Just to make sure that that last item doesn't have all that extra space. Beautiful. Look at that. Yeah, this landing page turned out great. I am so pleased with this. This is exactly the type of stuff that I love having in my portfolio. Look at everything that you can do with an index.html and a style.css. We haven't even written any JavaScript. There is no JavaScript here. Everything that you can do, you don't need a package manager, you don't need Node, you don't need a compiler, you don't need a framework, you don't need a library. Nothing wrong with any of those things. Nothing wrong with any of those things. But look at what you can do without them. It's so powerful to know how to use just vanilla CSS and good old semantic, good hierarchy, SEO, accessible HTML. So let's go ahead and get this deployed, and then we need to check again on mobile. Refining the responsive mobile styles. All right. I love it. I love it. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to deploy, let's just take a look at Firefox and Safari on desktop, which I haven't been doing a good job of doing. So hopefully this doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. All right, so here we are in Firefox. Everything looks good. Everything looks good. And tomorrow when we do our JavaScript, we're going to do all of our accessibility testing. So we'll do all of the keyboard testing, the focus state testing, making sure that we can open and close our navigation, our search drawer. We can advance through our sliders. We have a hero slider and a testimonial slider. Excuse me. And we'll make sure that our focus elements are all getting the correct, social media icons are all getting the correct focus, and so on and so forth. All right, this looks good. This looks good. Let's check Safari. Yeah, this looks good too. Oh, and we can see here that Safari is treating our arrows a little bit differently. That's interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that tomorrow when we work on that for the slider. I'm really glad that we did this kind of in-between state. I really like this. We should do that more often. Is this right? I feel like this is not quite, that doesn't seem right to me. So this should have a different aspect ratio. 6, which clearly it's not honoring at all. Why? Why? Click to show documentation. So does aspect, well, the other aspect ratios are all working. Where's Firefox? It's working here. It's working here. Just want to make sure I'm not insane. Working there. Okay, let's check MDN aspect ratio. So baseline, widely available, and it says supported in Safari. This feature is well established and works across many devices and browsers. It's been available across browsers since September 2021. Let's go down to the bottom. Interesting. Okay, we're gonna have to figure out why it's not working though. See, does it need... See, this needs to be 100% because the parent container is... Oh, you know what? Maybe we need to make sure that this is absolutely positioned. Yeah. Why does that matter? It's working here. The images width 100%, height 100%, object fit cover. And then the figures have a width, they're height auto, and they have an aspect ratio. And the images are display block. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of I'm gonna look into this tonight. I'll look into this evening. I'm not gonna spend too much time worrying about this now. But see, this is this is why we have to check this stuff. And listen, I am terrible about checking other browsers. I'm not good at checking other browsers at all, so. Yes, Monique, thank you. If you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. We would love to have you. We are a QA household around here. Remember to QA, people. Yes. Yes, we are. There's nothing worse than having somebody in your leadership team, somebody you like and respect, and you want to impress, or I guess worse than that, somebody that you don't particularly like and you don't particularly respect come and point out all the things that you missed. And here's the thing. We are worried about so many things, right? We're worried about getting so many things right. We can't see everything. So it's good to step away for a day and then come back and do a good, nice, thorough, top to bottom QA. Okay, so let's check our mobile devices again. And see. So this text looks good. And I use the same text. So this text looks good. This, I think, looks a lot better. This must just be... I think it's just these... We have big words inside this lorem ipsum for the... I must have used different lorem ipsum here. If the words were smaller, they would fit on those lines. So I don't think that there's a problem with this container. I think it's literally just the words. And so we're on Safari Mobile, and this is respecting the aspect ratio. So it's Safari Desktop that is not respecting the aspect ratio. That's pretty interesting. Our form looks fine. Our footer looks fine. We didn't have to do anything to the footer for styles. Not a darn thing. Our header looks great. We haven't done any JavaScript or click events yet for the header. Let's take a look at Chrome and see how that is looking. Okay, so let's refresh. So far, so good. Yes, yes, yes. I might put some different content in there tomorrow just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that that's what's going on with that. And if I put different content in there and it still looks like that, then I will adjust the styles. But I think that's what it is. This looks good to me. I can't wiggle it back and forth, so I don't have any overflow issues. All right, well, this is good. This is what I wanted to get done today. I'm very happy with this. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Holy cow. We had almost 500 people click on this stream. Thank you so much. I don't even know what to say. I've never had that many people click on one of my streams, and I've been doing this now for almost a year, just about a year. I have goosebumps right now when I think about that number. That's amazing. Thank you to I realize not all 500 of you are here right now. There's like definitely not that many. But thank you so much to everybody who clicked on this stream, liked the video. If you subscribe to the channel, I would also really appreciate that. Trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, and I think that's totally doable. We're moving and shaking on this channel, and we're having a really good time doing it. Come back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We are going to do the JavaScript for our click events, which are the header and the search drawer. We already styled the mobile navigation and the search drawer, so those things are styled and ready to go. We just need event listeners to click and add those active classes. And then we are going to do the vanilla JavaScript for our hero slider and our testimonial slider. And then we're done, baby. We're done. Thank you so much, Go Elmo Go. Good stream, keep it up, starting to gain traction. Yes, we are. Go Elmo Go and Monique Robinson are both mods for the channel, so thank you so much to Monique and Elmo for helping us out with that. Also, very special thank you to Rahul, who has been hanging out with us now for, I think, almost a month, and we love having him. So thank you, Rahul, for being here and hanging out and just being a really kind, nice person. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody. And everybody else who asked questions or made suggestions and was just hanging out for the day. So we will be back tomorrow morning. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day wherever you are. Enjoy the weather. If it's nice where you are, I don't know, it's nice here. It's hot and humid. And I will see you all tomorrow, and we're going to finish this thing. We're going to finish it. Have a good one. Bye.